Let's talk a bit about worshipping with our bodies. How do we use our bodies in worship?
God hasn't just saved your mind, or just your body, or just your spirit. God has saved you, the whole package, you know. So for me, part of authentic worship would be that you offer that whole package back to God, you know. I mean, I know a lot of guys struggle with just worshipping wildly and extravagantly. Raising the hands even could be a problem for some guys, but God requires it. He asks us to do it for Him, you know, in the Bible. And so for me, the physical aspect of worship is very important, you know. Just like the physical aspect of prayer is very important. I can, you know, if you're running around playing a game of rugby, it's not the same kind of prayer as if you're kneeling down at the side of your bed. Your physical affects your spiritual, and so in worship we need to be encouraging guys to get physically involved as well as you know, with their mind and with their spirit, and so the whole package is there.
And I like where it says in Romans about we presenting our bodies as living sacrifices, and that's our spiritual act of worship. And it kind of has this crossover that occurs where we're doing something physical, and it's a very physical act, and so, you know, maybe we're dancing or lifting our hands or kneeling or prostrating ourselves, but actually the Bible says it becomes a spiritual act, and you can't divorce the spiritual and the physical. They're actually, just like in our human bodies, we can't divorce the spiritual from the physical. We're a spirit being existing in a human body. But in in worship, as we participate physically, we're actually doing something spiritual, and it becomes something wonderful. And it's not like some Eastern thing where you're just kind of sitting on a rug and it's all happening in your head, but actually you're getting into it physically, and at the same time that's still spiritual, and it's not less because you're doing it physically. If anything, it's more because you're participating with everything you've got and with everything within you and everything that you are, and you're worshipping Him in that way.
I've found there have been times where I'll feel to do something just pretty out there, pretty wild, and like just start spinning around and jumping up and down, and it's something that's completely out of my comfort zone. And yet I'll feel the pleasure of God when I do it. Or it can be lying prostrate in front of a whole bunch of people who are jumping up and down, so it almost seems out of what you're supposed to be doing, but I feel like that's what God requires of me in that moment. And again, I'll just feel the intimacy of God when I do that. And that's just what I love, is when we step out of what is comfortable for us and yet what God requires of us, that's where He's glorified, and that's where you feel His pleasure in worshipping Him.
And that's an important part as well of worshipping, is that we're sensitive to those things and we flow where the Spirit's taking us. You know, if we're going to worship in spirit and in truth, we need to be Spirit-led. We need to be led by the Spirit. We can't just decide what we're going to do and just keep it within that box, but we've got to just go with it. And if God says do this or do that, then you've got to be ready. Whether it's something that you're going to do vocally or whether it's something you're going to do with your body, you've got to be ready to do those things and worship Him like that.